In a world where the future is bleak, a time-traveling robot and a based mom teaches the importance of recycling. Evil robots. Picture this: two adorable kids frolicking on a swing set, the embodiment of innocence. But wait, the scene shifts to a post-apocalyptic Los Angeles in 2029. Yep, that escalated quickly. As the camera zooms over the scorched earth, a voiceover spills the tea about how 3 billion lives were wiped out on August 29th, 1997, thanks to a nuclear fire. Global warming who? The survivors dubbed this tragic event Judgment Day. But hold on to your butts, because these folks still have to face a war against machines. It's like a bad breakup. The nightmare just never ends. Enter stage right, gun-wielding robots and their bigger, badder counterparts. These mechanical menaces are taking out human soldiers left and right. And who's the woman behind the voiceover, you ask? None other than Sarah Connor herself. She dishes out the backstory about Skynet, the computer system controlling these killer bots, also known as GPT-4, and how it sent two Terminators back in time to off her son, John Connor. But don't worry, the human resistance sent a babysitter, or a protector, for John. It's basically a high-stakes game of who can get to the kid first. Back to the action. The Terminator, played by everyone's favorite ex-governator, forms out of a truck. Before you judge the CGI, remember it's 1990, so cut them some slack. The Terminator is like an anatomy class reject, a robot covered in a meat suit. He scans people and objects, getting all the info he needs. He's like a walking, talking, murderous Google Glass. Remember those? Terminator strolls into a bar, in his birthday suit no less, scanning everyone. He finds a dude who fits his wardrobe needs and politely asks for his clothes, boots, and motorcycle. The guy laughs because really? The Terminator, never one to take jokes, beats everyone up and claims his new threads. Next up, we meet another birthday suit guy. He zaps a cop and swipes his clothes, gun, and car. He's like a one-stop shop for identity theft. He searches for John Connor, and we're introduced to the mini-rebel himself, ignoring his foster mom and hanging with his friend. Meanwhile, at the state hospital, Sarah Connor's pumping iron in her room. Doctors discuss her schizophrenic ramblings about a time-traveling killer robot. Can you imagine trying to explain that to your shrink? After Sarah gets force-fed meds, our police uniform-stealing guy, aka T-1000, shows up at John's house. Plot twist, he's a Terminator too. He's like the iPhone 12 to Arnold's iPhone 4, all shiny and liquid metal. T-1000 gets John's photo from his foster parents and learns T-800 was there earlier. Meanwhile, John's using his mom's tech-savvy teachings to rob an ATM, because moms always know best, right? As John and his friend ride off to spend their stolen cash, T-800 is hot on their trail. Sarah, meanwhile, has a vision of her late husband, urging her to protect John. She snaps back to reality and realizes she's still stuck in her cell. So our girl wakes up and sees herself on video, and she's all like, Judgment Day's coming on August 29th, 2029. But she plays it cool, telling the staff she's all good now. She's trying to get into minimum security and score some visitors, but the dude in charge isn't having it. She's like, Terminators? What Terminators? He's not buying it though, and even denies her a phone call. Harsh. To add insult to injury, he wants her locked up for another 6 months. She gets so mad she goes all She-Hulk on the staff, and they have to hold her down. Meanwhile, we meet Dyson at some top secret lab, looking all mysterious and playing with a robot hand. This guy will be important later. Back to John, who's being tailed by T-800. The Terminator is so focused on following the boys that he causes an accident, but he's got zero chill. No time for insurance. T-1000 is trying to catch up too, but he has to ask some kids for directions like a lost tourist. John's just chilling in the arcade, unaware that T-800 and T-1000 are closing in, but John's friend is like a mini Sherlock, sniffing out danger. When T-1000 asks if he knows John, the kid plays dumb and then warns John that there's a cop asking about him. Little dude knows not to be a snitch. Based. John starts running, but he's caught in a Terminator sandwich with T-800 and T-1000 closing in. A wild shootout ensues and T-800 goes all bodyguard on John. T-1000 is all like, you can't hurt me, and gets up like nothing happened. Poor John's stuck in a high-stakes game of tag. John thinks he's escaped on his bike, but T-1000 goes full Fast and Furious, hijacking a truck and chasing John down. T-800 hops on his bike and joins the epic race. John makes it past a bridge, but T-1000 crashes the truck through, like some action movie stunt. Wait a minute. T-800 shows off his mad bike skills and rescues John. They take off, leaving T-1000's truck in flames. T-1000 emerges from the fire, looking all Terminator chic, and we're left wondering how his police uniform survived the inferno. John and T-800 have a heart-to-heart on the highway, and John realizes his new buddy is a Terminator. Meanwhile, T-1000 is stealing cop cars like it's Grand Theft Auto. T-800 spills the beans on T-1000, telling John he's a more advanced model. So not reassuring. They decide to skip town but need to make a pit stop at John's house. John calls his foster parents and something's fishy. His mom is suddenly being all nice. So weird. T-800 takes over the call, pulls a slick voice-changing trick, and figures out T-1000 has taken over John's mom. Yikes. T-1000 reveals himself and pieces out. John is freaking out, so T-800 has to explain how T-1000 can change forms, like a shape-shifting party trick, but way scarier. Back at the police station, they're showing Sarah pictures of T-800 from 1984 and today. They want her to spill the beans, but little do they know, it's terminating time, and in truth she has no further information. So she plays it cool and they finally give up. But when they look away, she swipes a little clip from the pictures like a ninja in a romantic comedy. Unexpected. Now John is spilling the beans to T-800 about his mom being like a boot camp instructor, teaching him all sorts of life hacks, but he thought she was just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But now he's realizing she was right all along, and he's he's got major mom guilt. He wants to save Sarah, but T-800 is like, no can do, buddy. T-1000 would totally catfish us as your mom. John is freaking out and wants to make a beeline for his mom, but T-800 is like an overprotective dad and holds him back. John starts screaming like a preschooler who just lost his favorite toy. Surprisingly, T-800 lets him go, and John's like, wait, what? Why? So John figures out that T-800 is basically his personal robot butler, and he tests it out by telling him to do a one-legged dance, and T-800 does it. When some randos show up, he gives T-800 some orders, and all's good. But then T-800 whips out a gun and almost goes all Wild West on them. John's like, whoa, time out. He tells T-800 he can't just go around playing cowboy with people. He also orders him to help rescue his mom. Now we see T-1000 arriving at the hospital, and inside, this warden is being a total creeper, and not the Minecraft version. I mean, why is he licking Sarah's face while she's asleep? Yuck. But surprise, she wasn't asleep. She was just faking it so he'd leave her alone. Once he's gone, she gets the clip out of her mouth and unshackles herself like a pro escape artist. Now it's go time. Meanwhile, T-1000 is hiding from real cops. And where does he hide? In the floor. Not on it. In it. Talk about a floor plan. Haha. He pops back up, impersonates a guard, takes him out, and then hides the body. Talk about efficient. Back to Sarah. She escapes her room and exacts sweet revenge on Mr. Licky. She snags his keys and baton and starts a grand exit. By the way, T-1000 must have a thing for police uniforms because he's back in one like it's his favorite pair of PJs. Sarah goes all ninja on the hospital staff, and right on cue, John and T-800 arrive. John makes Terminator pinky promise not to off anyone before they go in, but once they're inside, and a guard gives him trouble, T-800 shoots him in the leg. Hey, John said not to terminate anyone. He didn't say anything about leg wounds. Inside, Sarah's got the boss at needlepoint with a syringe full of deadly juice. They open the door for her and she books it. I mean, when life gives you levins, stab him with a syringe, right? Her escape isn't smooth though. Some wannabe hero tries to stop her, so she's running like there's a sale at Sephora. She spots T-800 and thinks he's bad news, so she turns and sprints like she's in the Olympics. She doesn't know he's on her side yet. Hospital staff tries to poison her, but T-800 saves the day like a boss, tossing them away like yesterday's trash. Sarah sees her son, who tells her that T-800 is their new BFF, so she's like, alright, let's roll. But there's a problem. T-1000. Dude walks through iron gates like he's made of Play-Doh, and he's on the prowl. So T-800 tells Sarah and John to make a mad dash for the elevator while he deals with his Terminator bro. He makes it into the elevator just in time, but T-1000 goes all Hulk and tears it open. T-800 blasts his head open, but it comes back together like a bad hair day. He jumps on top of the elevator, and Sarah joins T-800 in the shootout until they reach the parking lot. They borrow a car from a sheriff and take off, while this Terminator turned track star chases them on foot. They're shooting, and he's morphing, but he's still giving Usain Bolt a run for his money. He finally grabs onto the car like a determined hitchhiker and starts trying to get in. At this point, T-800 has to play musical chairs with Sarah to shoot T-1000 off. He finally lets them go for now. Now that they've caught their breath, Sarah scolds John for coming to her rescue, like a worried mama bear. She tells him he's too important to risk his life for anyone, even her. He says he had to save her, but she's all like, nah, I had it all under control. Anyway, T-1000 rolls up to the police station and drops the classic, nice bike, line from GTA. You know what's coming next. T-800 and the gang find an abandoned gas station where he helps Sarah stitch up her wounds, and she returns the favor by digging out some souvenirs, bullets that is, from his body. While she's playing doctor, John asks if T-800 can learn to be more human, but he's like, nah dude, not programmed for that. So they open up his head to hit the reset button and give him a little upgrade. When Sarah puts him to sleep, her first thought is to go all Thor's hammer on it and end its life, but her son holds her back. She's not on board with the Terminator, but John somehow talks her into keeping him around. The next day, they jack a car and hit the road. T-800 insists they need to put some serious distance between themselves and the city. As they drive, John tries to teach T-800 some lingo and human tricks, and that's when Terminator delivers his now iconic line, "Hasta la vista, baby." They pull up at a gas station for some grub, and John tries teaching T-800 to smile, but honestly, it's like watching a toaster attempt to wink. While T-800 tops off the car's oil, Sarah grills him about Skynet. He spills the beans about Miles Bennett Dyson, the guy behind it all. You remember Dyson, right? The vacuum guy. Okay, no, not that one. This one. Turns out Skynet isn't up and running yet, but Dyson's currently developing a microprocessor that'll be the heart of the apocalyptic AI. Sarah wants the deets, so T-800 fills her in. We cut to Dyson chilling in his swanky pad, typing away at his computer. His wife's pretty miffed that he's been working non-stop, and it's Sunday, family day. She somehow convinces him to take a break from world domination. Aha, the power of love. Meanwhile, Sarah's brought the boys to a trailer park to meet her old pal, Enrique. She needs clothes, food, and a truck. John introduces the Terminator as Uncle Bob, but the bot's not exactly thrilled with the nickname. And seriously, who let him hold the baby like that? Enrique's packing some serious heat. The gang chats about their fears. Of course, T-800 has none. When the Terminator spots a machine gun, that's love at first sight. He flashes a grin that's actually pretty adorable. Not bad, brobo. Next, T-800 and John work on the truck, while John vents about his life. T-800 gets the truck running, and John teaches him the sacred art of high and low fives. Sarah watches them and realizes that T-800 makes a pretty good dad. He won't come home hammered, yell, or be too busy, and he'd take a bullet, or 1,000 for John. Who needs a human father figure when you've got a killer robot? Sarah dozes off and has that same nightmare. fire, doom, and judgment day. She wakes up and sees she scribbled no fate on the table. Without a word, she hops in a car and pieces out, leaving John and T-800 behind. John checks out her table graffiti and recognizes it as something his dad told her. Bingo, Dyson. They tail her, even though T-800 warns that T-1000 might see this coming, but John's not backing down. Sarah arrives at Dyson's place and sets up her sniper. She's got him in her sights, but Dyson's son and his toy car save the day. Dyson ducks, and Sarah blasts his computer instead. Annoyed, she goes rogue in the office. She storms into the house with a shotgun, but can't pull the trigger. John and T-800 show up, and John comforts his mom. She tells him she loves him, and they hug, while T-800 patches up Dyson. After some first aid, T-800 lays it out for Dyson. Skynet, Judgment Day, the potential for 3 billion deaths, and several terrible sequels. And all this will happen if he doesn't hit the brakes on his project. Dyson, now a changed man, agrees to destroy all Skynet-related research, files, disk drives, the works. But there's a catch. The chip. It's in the CPU from the OG Terminator, circa 1984, and that's where Dyson's work was reverse engineered from. The chip stashed at Cyberdyne, so our quartet of heroes heads to Cyberdyne for a little impromptu house cleaning. Once they're there, they tie up the security guy and slip into the lab, but another guard finds the first one hog-tied in the bathroom and hits the panic button, which locks Dyson out. No worries though, the Terminator's got it covered. He blasts open the door and they storm in. Meanwhile, T-1000's been out of the picture for a hot minute. He shows up at Dyson's house just in time to hear a police report about Sarah Connor causing a ruckus at Cyberdyne. That's his cue to make tracks. Back at Cyberdyne, our heroes are busy wrecking shop when the cops surround the place. Suddenly, there are choppers everywhere. I mean, who called in the SWAT team for a little office redecoration? It's not that deep. So John, our little safe-cracking prodigy, notices the 5-0 outside and quickly briefs the squad. Sarah's like, yo, I got this, while T-800 flexes his robot muscles, ready to deal with the popo. John's like, hey, remember a no-clapping humans pact? T-800 flashes his best robot grin and says, just trust me, kiddo. T-800 goes full-on action hero mode, spraying bullets at police cars with the accuracy of a high-end gaming mouse. Aimbot go brrr. It's a zero human casualties kind of party, but the ungrateful humans still shoot back. Can't even get a simple thank you. John and Dyson sneak into the lab's secret chamber, yoink the arm in the chip, and regroup with the crew. But surprise, cops burst in, turning Dyson into Swiss cheese. Delicious. Sarah's out here going full-on Rambo, and T-800 swoops in for the save. Now the original plan was to blow up the building after a casual escape, but Dyson's busy cosplaying as a human detonator. Lucky for the crew, he's got just enough life left to let them slip away. Downstairs, they're met by a cop-a-palooza and T-1000's grand entrance. The cops get all tear-gassy, but T-800's got a plan. He tells Sarah and John to chill in the elevator while he deals with the fuzz. Our metal hero walks through bullets like it's a light drizzle, shooting cops in the leg, cause you know the promise. The last two get a taste of their own tear gas medicine, but they'll live to see another donut. Outside, T-800 goes all tear gas Oprah on the cops, hops in a truck, and drives into the building to pick up Sarah and John. They zoom away, but wait, T-1000's like, I can fly too, and chases the trio in a low-riding helicopter. Suddenly, it's a high-stakes shootout on the highway. T-1000 tags Sarah in the leg, crashes his chopper into their truck, and starts jacking vehicles from innocent bystanders. Rude. Our heroes grab a painfully slow truck, and T-1000's all up in their grill. T-800 decides to play car hopscotch, jumping onto T-1000's truck and ripping it apart. Both trucks crash into a steel mill, and T-1000 looks like he's disintegrating. T-1000 goes full action star with a hasta la vista baby, and shreds T-1000 into a million little pieces. But it ain't over yet, folks. T-1000 pulls himself together like a bad axe, and retreated to a showdown between the two Terminators. T-800 gets trapped, loses an arm, and Sarah and John are in trouble. Sarah fights back, but T-1000's healing skills are seriously OP. Just when things look bleak, T-800 comes in with an electrifying entrance and a big old grenade launcher. John spots two Sarahs, but he's no fool. He lets his mom turn T-1000 turn Sarah, and T-800 finishes the job, blasting T-1000 into molten steel. Bye, Felicia. With the end in sight, John tosses the 1984 Terminator arm and chip into the lava, but T-800 drops a bombshell. There's one more chip in his head. Cue the waterworks as John begs him to stay. T-800 gives John a robo-hug and tells him that his sacrifice is the only way to protect their future. He fist bumps Sarah, steps on the platform, and says his goodbyes just before she hits the button to lower him into the molten steel. As he descends into his fiery fate, T-800 gives John one last thumbs up, the raddest exit for the coolest robot dad ever. So Sarah and John hit the road, cruising down the highway like they're in a feel-good music video. Sarah's got newfound hope for humanity. She's all like, you know, if a freaking Terminator can learn to appreciate human life, then maybe there's hope for us humans after all. I mean, if a robot can go from I'll be back to I'll be your backup, there's gotta be a chance for us too, right? Moral of the story? GPT-4.